you've had 5 bosses in your career. Is that right?
Yeah.
Here's the list I had. Peter Thiel,
Reid Hoffman, Max Levchin, Jack Dorsey, arguably Vinod.
That's the 5 I have.
He wouldn't describe himself that way, but yes.
What can we go through each? And well, I guess first, what do you think? I mean, those are all opinionated people, big personalities. Yes. What do you think as a complement to those people? What do you think you do particularly well that's allowed you to sort of resonate with big personalities?
I think the most important step early in my career was to implement their ambition and their vision. I didn't have an alternative ambition and vision. It was like make them successful by using the skills, traits, characteristics, levers I knew how to deploy. So I think that's being a complement to a very strong-willed, visionary founder type that's required. I think secondarily is to understand absorb the brain as much as possible. So I learned this actually as a law clerk of all things. My first job out of law school was to work as a law clerk for an appellate court judge in Texas on the Fifth Circuit. And the way she sort of explained the job to me on day one, my first professional job in life, was your job is never to let me make a mistake. And I took that very seriously, and I've always taken it very seriously. My job is not to let the person I report to make a mistake, whatever I have to do. However I have to persuade them, I have to go find new data points, marshal different arguments, figure out how to, because a mistake by the leader is potentially catastrophic, certainly has asymmetric downside. So I always blame myself when the decision, the outcome isn't what I wanted. It's not Peter's fault, or it's not Reid's fault, or it's not Max's fault, it's mine, because I didn't persuade them correctly. And so I think taking that with me allows you to pair very well with visionary, ambitious founders.
We've talked about lessons from Peter. I want to go through quickly best lessons you learned from some of these folks. So Peter, I think we've hit on a few, but anything in particular that we didn't touch on?
Oh yeah, I mean, I basically quote Peter every day.
Yeah.
And they're often remixes, to be fair now. I've taken a lot of his views and slightly remixed them to make them my own. But then, just like in music, a remix can be arguably better. Yeah. Sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's better. So I'm hoping I'm getting the Galantis remix of Kygo, not the worst version. But so yeah, Peter taught me you have to find undiscovered talent. That's how you scale companies. B, the weakness of general managing. You want people who are excellent at their craft and you want to promote them. So a lot of philosophies that I apply all the time. The benefits of focus, allocating time. People systematically undervalue their time, and happiness is another Peterism from 23 years ago. So I applied these literally daily.
Are those derivatives from some other, I mean, everyone's sort of remixing some concept for standing on the shoulders of giants, but what has allowed him to come up with so many different frameworks and ideologies?
I don't know. I actually think most of them are fairly original. Maybe they're pithy, succinct distillations. Peter's really good at taking a lot of data points and describing a lot of data points in a really succinct, powerful, explanatory, equation.
Simplifying complex things is one. If someone can't explain it to me, it probably means they don't understand it to the extent they should.
That's always true. Like I also learned in law school, I had the benefit of taking constitutional law with some really good professors, including Charles Fried, and he basically said all complicated arguments are wrong. Right arguments are always simple.
Reid Hoffman.
Reid taught me the benefit of two things: the decision-making framework that I mentioned of not falsely equivalent, using pros and cons.
Don't weight everything equally.
And then in negotiation, specifically the dimension of time. So when you're negotiating, most people focus on economic terms and other pieces of the puzzle, but time can be your friend or foe. And how do you use time to affect other terms is something that's very subtle but very, very powerful.
What about Max?
Max taught me a couple things. The bottom up, how to use metrics and KPIs to really drive outcomes. Secondly,
by the way, maybe talk about dashboards and how that relates to that.
Well, that's another whole topic. I gave a speech on, the first time I was invited to present to the Coastal Ventures CEO Summit before I joined as like an exec, was to talk about dashboards and how to do dashboards properly, which doesn't sound scintillating, but I turned it into a talk that hopefully kept most CEOs' attention. But anyway, so I'm a big proponent of dashboards, and that you want to orchestrate the dashboards as CEO or COO by yourself. Like literally go to the whiteboard and write out the business equation and then make the dashboards reflect that and use that to drive decision-making across the organization down to every single person, including CSRs. And if you don't do that, you can't expect them to make wise decisions. You're just going to get frustrated. Anyway, Max taught me the benefits of tenacity. Max is one of the most tenacious people on the planet. Also subtly taught me the benefits of fitness. Like when I was working at PayPal, we'd worked really hard, but Max would go for like a 3-mile run basically every day. And I remember looking up to the co-founder CTO and saying, if he has time to run, I'm going to run. And I'd also try to shadow him. The problem was in shadowing Max on a run is he easily runs like a 6-minute mile, like very easily. He can run 4:30 probably. I can't, so it wasn't the best, but it was aspirational. But yeah, Max taught me also the benefits of certain technologies that I didn't have an appreciation for. Once in a while, I can spike on, there's a new technology which has certain characteristics that can lead to a breakthrough in business. And I didn't know how to do that kind of analysis in my brain. And he taught me with one specific illustration around Flash in 2003. And then I applied it later to other technologies.
Which led to your investment in YouTube, right?
It did. It specifically led to the investment in YouTube. Max told me to look for something based on Flash. In 2003, in May 2005, I found Javed Karim, who had co-founded YouTube. And the first question I asked him was, is it coded in Flash? He said, yes. I was like, we're off to the races.
Jack Dorsey.
Jack taught me literally how to do design-driven thinking. So I've been an Apple fanboy, for all my life, literally since like 8th grade. But there's a difference between like reading about Steve Jobs and Apple and actually understanding what design-driven thinking really means, that crafting every single detail, paying attention to every single detail, and how to scale an organization. So that's the most important thing. The thing that makes Jack so powerful is he actually is a first-rate designer, a damn good technologist, and a first-rate business person. And that combination of all three people maybe doesn't exist. Max is actually a first-rate business strategist and a first-rate technologist. Even that Venn diagram is extraordinarily powerful. By the way, this is the other founder answer. The third founder answer for me is combining two things you don't see together. So a first-rate salesperson and a first-rate technologist, I'd invest in that. Almost never happens. Like I remember this first-rate technologist, first-rate business person description of Max. Reid Hoffman articulated this to me January of 2001. That's what was going to make Max special. Is like there's 5 people in all of Silicon Valley who have that trait.
And what about Vinod?
So Vinod is a technology visionary. He can immediately see a new technology and feel like almost intuitively all the ways it can be levered to change business equations. And it's extremely powerful. But the most actionable piece for me, because I'm not a technology-driven investor, was when he's on the board of Square, he pointed out to me this adage, the team you build is the company you build. And you can get distracted in everything we do around products, technology, but it all comes down to the team. And that adage is the most important, succinct way to communicate it. It's always about the team you build.